The Velar Dominion fleet drifted through the void like a moving continent of steel and hatred. 2,000 ships, each one bristling with weapons that had erased entire species. Their hulls reflected the cold light of distant stars, silver, jagged, perfect. It was not a fleet meant for war. It was meant for domination. At the center of that vast armada stood the flagship Empyrean, a black spear of a vessel stretching 5 kilometers long. Inside, Archlord Vorsk Talron leaned over the command dais, his slit pupils narrowing as a holographic sphere displayed their next target, a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Earth, his second-in-command announced, spitting the alien syllables like an insult. A world of primitives. They refused to acknowledge Dominion law or send tribute. Their signal was brief. Vorsk's crest rippled, a gesture that meant amusement. Show it again. The recording played. Static crackled, then a human voice, calm, unshaken, unmistakably confident. You've made a mistake. Turn back. This is your only warning. Silence followed. The bridge crew exchanged puzzled looks. To the Velar, defiance was unthinkable. None had spoken to them without trembling in centuries. Vorsk's mandibles flexed in a grin. One ship, one world, they believe they can defy us with words. Prepare the armada. Let the galaxy see what happens when insects roar. The order rippled across the fleet. Engines ignited, bathing the void in blue fire. Broadcast drones launched ahead to capture every moment of the impending slaughter. Billions would watch. Fear was the Dominion's favorite language. Far away, at the edge of the Orion Spur, a single vessel waited in silence. Leviathan Prime. It floated against the darkness like a shadow with shape, an absence of light more than a machine. There were no running lights, no markings. Its surface shifted subtly, absorbing every skin that touched it. On the bridge, Commander Elias Reeves stood before a wide viewport. The stars reflected faintly in his eyes, sharp and calm as cold iron. He was not a large man, nor did he look like the savior of a species. But there was something in his stillness, the kind that spoke of final decisions already made. His AI, Cassandra, broke the silence. Her voice was smooth, human yet not human. Velar fleet entering range in 20 minutes. 2,000 confirmed warships. Power output suggests planetary assault configuration. Reeve nodded once. Expected. Any sign they received the warning? They broadcast your message repeatedly on their networks. Mocking it. He exhaled through his nose, a quiet sigh. Then we proceed. Cassandra hesitated, as though considering emotion she wasn't programmed to feel. You're outnumbered 2,000 to 1. Statistically. Statistics end when human intent begins, he said softly. Run final diagnostics. Bring all systems online. Power flowed through the Leviathan like blood awakening a god. The deck thrummed. Shields folded into phase, weapon pods unfolded from their housings, and the ship's black hull shimmered faintly as quantum lattices aligned. In the tactical display, the Velar formation appeared, a dense, gleaming swarm approaching with the arrogance of certainty. The first transmission came as they entered range. Velar Commander. Identify yourself, human vessel. You stand before the Dominion Armada. Reeve leaned slightly forward. Good, he said, voice level. Saves us the trouble of finding you. There was a pause, then laughter echoed across the channel, cruel, echoing, certain. The Velar believed themselves invincible, their laughter the sound of empires before extinction. Reeve muted the channel. Lock main cannon. Target? Cassandra asked. Random. Let them see the scale. The Leviathan didn't lurch, didn't flare, didn't roar. It simply acted. A pulse invisible to the naked eye lanced through space. On the Dominion side, 7 ships vanished. No explosion. No wreckage. Just absence. The Velar bridge erupted in confusion. Sensor malfunction. Shields didn't register impact. Cross-check telemetry. Then a second later, the data came through, 7 voids where ships had been. No energy trail. No debris. On the Empyrean, Vorsk froze. His second-in-command whispered, "Archlord, they're gone." Vorsk slammed a clawed hand on the dais. "Coincidence! Fire everything! Show them the weight of gods!" Thousands of plasma cannons flared. The sky turned white. Beams converged on a single point. When the light faded, Leviathan Prime still stood there, untouched. Reeve watched the energy dissipate against his shields, his expression unreadable. "Return fire," he said. "One more round." This time, the slug punched through a battleship, passed through two more, then disintegrated a cruiser before disappearing into deep space. The result was instant. 4 massive explosions chained across the formation. Panic spread. Command channels erupted in screams. "It's targeting us at random! We can't lock onto it! Our sensors, it's like it isn't there!" Vorsk's grin twisted into fury. "Close formation! Surround it!" The armada shifted, thousands of ships closing in like wolves around a lone prey. But the prey didn't move. Inside the Leviathan, Cassandra's voice lowered. "You're making a point." Reeve nodded slightly. "They believe in scale. Let's redefine it." He walked to the communications terminal and reactivated the Dominion channel. "Velar Fleet," he said, his voice echoing through their systems. "We warned you. You didn't listen. You wanted a demonstration. Now you have one." Vorsk snarled into the feed. "You will be erased, human." Reeve's expression didn't change. "If that were true, you'd already have done it." He cut the link. "Disengage. Let them breathe." The Leviathan dimmed its weapons, drifting silently among the wreckage. The Velar fleet hesitated, unsure whether to press or retreat. It was the first time in living memory that hesitation existed in their ranks. Cassandra reported softly, 37% of their fleet destroyed or disabled. They're regrouping. No retreat signals detected. They're not ready yet, Reeve said. They still think they're fighting. He turned his gaze to the stars beyond, distant, indifferent, eternal. They'll understand soon. Fear isn't the weapon. It's the lesson. For the first time, a faint crack of emotion slipped through his tone, not triumph, not satisfaction, but quiet sorrow. On the other side of the void, the Dominion fleet repositioned, confusion giving way to rage. The Velar had never been denied victory, and they could not imagine an equal, let alone a superior. Vorsk leaned close to the comms. Prepare the full armada strike. Every ship. No survivors. As orders rippled outward, his words were recorded and transmitted, as always, to every world under Dominion rule, propaganda for the masses. But this time billions watched with unease. The human voice, calm, unflinching, still echoed in their minds. Turn back. This is your only warning. The Dominion's most feared armada began its final charge. Aboard Leviathan Prime, Elias Reeves stood motionless, hands clasped behind his back. The hum of the ship surrounded him like a heartbeat. Cassandra, he said quietly, begin counter-engagement protocols. Confirmed. Primary weapon systems charged. Awaiting authorization. Authorization granted. The bridge lights dimmed. The stars outside flickered as gravitational distortion fields formed like ripples in water. Reeve watched the Velar fleet closing in, brilliant, proud, and doomed. He whispered, almost to himself, they came to measure us. Let's make sure they remember the units. The Leviathan moved forward, a silent shape gliding into legend. The galaxy had not known silence like this in centuries. Every transmission hub, every communication relay from the core to the rim replayed the same impossible footage, a human warship vaporizing part of the Velar Dominion's grand fleet in seconds. The feed was grainy, fragmented, but clear enough to see the impossible, one ship standing against thousands, and surviving. On the Dominion's capital world, bureaucrats screamed for censorship. On conquered planets, slaves whispered in the shadows. Fears shifted, its direction reversed. The unstoppable had been stopped. Aboard the flagship Empyrean, Archlord Vorsk Talron stood in a haze of burned ozone. Damage reports scrolled across his vision as officers barked half-coherent orders. The mighty fleet, his masterpiece of terror, was scattered and disoriented. "Reform the line!" he bellowed. "They are flesh and circuitry, nothing more. We crush them now!" The command bridge trembled under his voice. None dared argue, though some avoided his gaze. The Dominion had always preached that resistance was folly. But the footage contradicted faith itself. A junior officer whispered near the tactical board, "Archlord, sensors confirm only one enemy vessel. Its energy signature remains undefined." Vorsk's eyes burned crimson. "Undefined? Then define it by its wreckage." In the cold stretch of void beyond the velar formation, Leviathan Prime drifted in silence. Inside, the air vibrated faintly as the ship's systems adjusted power flow through its folded core reactor. The hum sounded like breathing. Commander Elias Reeves sat in the captain's chair, expression unreadable. The battle had lasted less than 15 minutes. He had destroyed a third of the Dominion's armada with only 2 strikes. Yet he felt no victory, only a tightening sense of inevitability. Cassandra's voice broke the silence. "Enemy fleet regrouping. Estimated 1,200 operational ships. Reinforcements en route. They intend full encirclement." "Good," Reeves said. "It means they're still thinking. Their communications are unstable. Fear responses detected. Shall I amplify interference?" "No. Let them talk. Let them hear each other panic." Cassandra paused, her synthetic tone almost thoughtful. "They believe you're something more than human." Reeves' eyes remained fixed on the holographic display. "That's the idea." The velar fleet closed formation, thousands of ships pivoting into a vast ring. Their engines burned violet against the dark, converging like a tightening noose. In the center, the Leviathan waited, motionless, silent, defiant. Vorsk watched from his throne, his pride masking unease. "All ships focus fire. Break that shadow apart." Energy flares erupted in unison. A storm of plasma and antimatter engulfed the human vessel. Space itself seemed to convulse from the force. For several seconds, the Leviathan disappeared inside a sphere of blinding light. When the glare faded, it was still there. Unmoved. Untouched. Vorsk felt the bridge grow colder. "Impossible," he whispered. Inside the Leviathan, Reeves' voice was steady. "Return fire. Pattern Sigma." A web of light unfolded from the ship's hull, not lasers, not missiles, but folded gravity lances, invisible distortions that cut through space like glass shattering. Dozens of velar ships simply came apart. Their hulls split along lines of impossible geometry. Cassandra's tone was quiet, clinical. 71 vessels neutralized. Probability of retreat increasing." Reeve didn't answer. He was watching the sensor feed, thousands of alien life signs blinking out like dying stars. His jaw clenched. "Minimize secondary casualties. Target only command nodes. You're being merciful? Efficient." He switched the comms back to open broadcast. His voice carried through the void, calm as a verdict. "We warned you. You ignored it. Every moment you continue this fight, you sentence your own." Across the Dominion network, millions of viewers heard that human voice. It didn't boast. It didn't rage. It simply stated. And that made it worse. On board the Empyrean, confusion was turning into fear. Officers shouted over each other, trying to make sense of the impossible data, weapons passing through space where the Leviathan wasn't, shields registering hits before shots were fired. Vorsk slammed a clawed fist against the console. "How does it hide? How does it fight without revealing itself?" A trembling technician answered. "Sir, it doesn't bend light or jam scans. It bends space." The words hung heavy in the air. Space manipulation was theoretical even for the Dominion. Vorsk hissed. "Then we'll burn the space it hides in. All ships converge. Ram if you must." The armada surged forward in chaotic fury, firing, colliding, collapsing in on the Leviathan. It was madness, a tidal wave against the cliff. Inside the Leviathan, Cassandra observed quietly. They're breaking formation. Orders? Hold fire, Reeves said. Let them waste themselves. The Velar ships tore through empty space where the Leviathan had been seconds earlier. The dreadnought phased through dimensions like a phantom, reappearing behind them. In the instant it rematerialized, a silent pulse rippled outward, gravitational compression. Whole battle groups crumpled into themselves, collapsing into glowing fragments. Cassandra's sensors flickered. 500 ships down. Remaining forces scattering. Leave them, Reeves said. Send this transmission to all open frequencies. The human voice echoed through every surviving ship. Your fleet is gone. Go home. Remember what you saw here. Humanity doesn't seek war, but we don't run from it either. The Velar channels erupted with panic chatter. Some ships broke off and fled. Others drifted, engines dead. The survivors' voices trembled. It's not a ship. It's a weapon pretending to be alive. They told us humans were children. Reeve listened, silent. Cassandra lowered her tone. They are transmitting distress calls. Shall I jam them? No. Let the galaxy listen. The Empyrean remained. The Dominion flagship refused retreat. On its bridge, Vorsk's calm returned, a dangerous calm born from wounded pride. Summon the Eclipse, he ordered. The command stunned his crew. The Eclipse Protocol, my lord? That weapon is forbidden. Vorsk turned slowly. So was defeat. From deep space, a massive signal answered his call, a moon-sized station drifting through the dark. It was the Dominion's ultimate deterrent, never used in living memory, a stellar reactor capable of collapsing suns. On the Leviathan, Cassandra detected the surge instantly. Energy spike detected. Source, Eclipse Station. Estimated destructive yield, total system sterilization. Reeves' jaw tightened. They're willing to burn half the galaxy just to kill one ship. Tactical options? None acceptable. He leaned back, thinking. Then quietly. Prepare Project Prometheus. Warning, activation may destabilize local space-time. It has never been tested. Neither has extinction, he said. Cassandra hesitated before responding, as though sharing his weight. Understood. Charging Prometheus core. The stars around them flickered. Energy coalesced at the Leviathan's heart, a controlled singularity, pulsing with blue light. The air aboard the ship vibrated with a deep, resonant hum, as if reality itself was holding its breath. Reeve watched the readouts. Across the void, the Eclipse station unfolded massive rings, gathering power for its shot. Cassandra's sensors whined. Time to impact, 4 minutes. Then we make this count. He turned to the viewport. The stars beyond seemed smaller, dimmer. His voice was low, steady. They brought extinction. Let's remind them who wrote the definition. Back aboard the Empyrean, Vorsk watched the Eclipse's power spike reach critical. He could almost taste triumph. Let the galaxy see the end of humanity, he declared. He never noticed the subtle distortion near the human ship, the faint warping of starlight, the birth of something vast and terrible. The resolute dawn drifted through the void, silent but for the hum of its core. On its bridge, Captain Ariakade stood before the holomap, watching as thousands of red signatures pulsed on the edge of Sol's defensive perimeter. The Zorith Armada, a vast swarm of jagged warships, darkened half a quadrant of space. Each vessel burned with stolen energy, forged from the bones of conquered worlds. They had come for Earth. Admiral Rivek's fleet has entered firing range, reported Lieutenant Shaw. His voice was low, reverent almost, as if he couldn't believe what was about to happen. Orders, Captain? Arya didn't answer immediately. She stared at the alien formation, at the endless tide of power, and remembered the message Earth had sent the day before. A single word broadcast across the stars. Run. Now, the galaxy waited to see if humanity's arrogance would be its doom, or its rebirth. Open the channel, Arya said finally. Let them hear us. A moment later, the holographic projection of Admiral Rivek flickered to life. His scaled visage filled the air, rows of teeth glinting in the dim light. His voice was like metal grinding over stone. "Human," he hissed. "You stand alone. One ship against an empire. What delusion drives you?" Arya didn't flinch. "You've terrorized every civilization you've touched. We warned you once. This is your only reply." Rivek bared his fangs. "You think a single vessel can? And you?" Arya's tone turned razor-sharp. "We don't think. We know." She ended the call with a gesture. The bridge fell silent. "Target locked," Shaw said. "Every weapon hot." Arya turned to the crew. "Once we fire, there's no turning back. You all know what this ship carries." They did. The Resolute Dawn wasn't a battleship in the conventional sense, it was humanity's final experiment. At its core burned a micro-singularity, bound by layers of quantum lattices. It wasn't designed to survive a war, it was the war. Every calculation, every command, every system existed for one purpose: to unleash an unstoppable demonstration of human resolve. Arya exhaled slowly. "Engage the gravitas lance." Deep within the ship, massive conduits flared to life. The fabric of space itself seemed to shiver. The front of the Resolute Dawn glowed, lines of light running across its hull like veins of molten steel. Outside, the Zorith ships began to maneuver, confident in their numbers. Their cannons charged, flaring violet across the darkness. "Fire!" The universe went silent. A beam tore through the void, pure, condensed gravity compressed to a single point. It didn't burn. It erased. A corridor of annihilation stretched through the center of the enemy formation. Ships folded inward, their hulls twisted into nothing as space-time collapsed around them. When the light faded, a third of the armada was gone. Shaw stared, speechless. They didn't even have time to." "They will now," Arya said coldly. "They'll have time to fear." Moments later, dozens of alien signals flickered, transmitting on every frequency. Pleas for surrender. Warnings. Confusion. The once mighty armada scrambled to retreat, their formations breaking apart like dust in a storm. But Rivek wasn't done. His flagship, the Vorther Dominion, charged forward through the debris. Massive energy cannons flared, slamming into the Resolute Dawn's shields. The ship shuddered, consoles sparked. "Shields holding, barely," shouted the engineer. "Core stability at 84%. "Bring us around," Arya ordered. "Let's finish this." The Zorith flagship loomed on the main screen, a monstrous construct of metal and malice, larger than entire human cities. Rivek's voice roared through calms again. "You think you've won? You're just one spark in the dark." Arya narrowed her eyes. "And sparks start fires." The Resolute Dawn charged headlong into the enemy flagship's formation. Railguns thundered, ripping through escorts. Drones swarmed and were torn apart by kinetic flak. Then, as the Vorther Dominion filled the viewport, Arya gave the final command. "Overload the core." The crew froze. Even Shaw turned in disbelief. "Captain, that'll kill us." "I know," she said. Her voice was steady, resolute. "But if we fail, billions die. Humanity survives because someone stands long enough to make the impossible choice." Silence. Then Shaw nodded. "For Earth." "For Earth," echoed the crew. The countdown began. Energy surged through the ship, systems collapsing one by one as the singularity's containment weakened. The Resolute Dawn dove straight into the Vorther Dominion, colliding at a fraction of light speed. The screen went white. And then the stars themselves screamed. The explosion was unlike anything ever recorded. The singularity expanded and imploded, swallowing the Zorith flagship and half its fleet. When sensors recalibrated, the space where the enemy once stood was empty, a silent wound in the galaxy. Earth's listening stations received the final transmission from the Resolute Dawn. "Mission complete. Humanity endures." Then nothing. For days, the galaxy was quiet. No word from the Zorith. No threats. Only fear. Across countless systems, species who once mocked Earth now whispered its name with awe. A week later, a damaged Zorath scout ship limped into neutral space, carrying a single message. It was a recording from Admiral Revek's last moments. On the transmission, his voice trembled, the same voice that had once roared commands to 1,000 worlds. "They warned us," he rasped. "We didn't listen. The humans, they don't fight for power. They fight because they refuse to die." The message spread like wildfire across the galactic networks. Empires paused their wars. Pirates abandoned raids. The age of conquest faltered. Because now, the galaxy had seen what humanity could do when pushed too far. Months later, a small fleet searched the debris field where the Resolute Dawn vanished. Among the drifting metal and shattered hulls, they found something impossible: a single escape pod, intact. Inside was Captain Arya Cade, unconscious but alive. When she awoke aboard the recovery ship, her first words were quiet, almost a whisper. "Did we win?" The officer beside her nodded. "You didn't just win, Captain. You changed everything." Arya looked out the viewport, toward the distant blue shimmer of Earth. "Good," she said softly. "Then maybe they'll think twice before knocking on our door again." Outside, the stars burned brighter, as if the universe itself had taken a breath. The Resolute Dawn was gone, but its message would echo forever. Humanity does not beg. Humanity does not kneel. It warns once, and then it ends the war.